What's up, y'all? So got a pretty decent amount of work done, and I'll show you guys around what I got done. Basically, buttoned up the front of the motor, got the valve cover on. I'm gonna need to re-put that on because I forgot to put RTV on the bottom side of it. Got the intake manifold mostly assembled, made a custom block-off plate for the intake air control, or the idle air control valve, and got the control arms on, but I think I showed you that in the other video. Table's a mess, as usual. What we're going to be doing now is we are going to be taking apart the GSR transmission. We have to put an LSD in it. We have to put a new fifth gear in it and send it, I think. Okay, so here's the motor. There's no intake manifold gasket on this motor right now. The reason for that is because I ordered one from Amazon, a thermal one, and apparently B16 and Type R fitment is different from a GSR, according to this ad. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is a Type R intake manifold. It's a replica from Blocks and bolts right up to the GSR, so I'm not so sure that that ad was correct. It was $20, so it's not a big deal, but $20 is $20. But the cool thing about what I got set up right now is, I have this Type R Blocks Gen 1 replica, or it might be a Skunk 2 replica of a Type R that I got from Coyote Black. Thank you, Coyote Black. Thank you, Coyote, bro. I appreciate that. It had an open ICV part to it, and so I just basically made this little block-off plate out of an old washing machine. So I don't throw anything away. These are old shoes from the gym that, got messed up after running and stuff for a long time. The laces on my boot strip, so now they're my work shoes. And this is a washing machine lid. The rest of the washing machine is actually in my basement. As I need metal, I cut the washing machine apart instead of paying $25 to Home Depot for them to take good metal away from me. Why would I do that? But the cool thing about this is, so I got this manifold on. Other cool thing is that I got this AEM fuel rail on. So the AEM fuel rail is dope. Fit right up. No issues with fitment. Right now we are running just GSR injectors because I have GSR cams in here. No tune is going to be on the car for the first event. I have an AEM fuel pressure regulator. This one is an authentic AEM fuel pressure regulator that I got off Facebook Marketplace. But this one, fuel rail, was sent to me by AEM. And it even has a spot for a fuel pressure sending unit or a gauge. I will be running a sending unit to my ECU. The sending unit, the hydraulic sensors can get kind of expensive if you buy them name brand. This one, I had AEM send me some hydraulic sensors for my brake fluid. So I'm going to be running front and rear brake pressure and then probably a manual bias valve way down the line next season. But this is for fuel. 0 to 1,000 PSI, which I really don't like. I would have preferred it to be a tighter band, like 0 to 200, but I read that it was for fuel. I read that it was for, German cars, for gasoline-powered cars. I assumed that their fuel pressure wasn't super high. I might be wrong because they might be turbocharged. They might be upwards of 100. Hondas are like 40, 50, the older Hondas. But cool thing about this is it screws right into that port right there, and you can send that to the ECU. So if you're making fuel pressure regulator changes, you have the data. If your fuel pressure regulator is failing, you have the data. If your fuel pump is failing, you have the data. So it's all on the dash. You can set alarms. That was kind of my idea. And I still have this manual fuel pressure regulator or fuel pressure gauge from B&M. Other than that, we got the pulley on. I did a really quick coating of black on it just so that it wouldn't look terrible. I forgot to send it to Dylan Dewson for a ceramic coating, but it's on the block. Down the line, I'm probably going to get an ATI damper if this motor doesn't blow up. Knock on metal. But yeah, so front of the motor's all bolted up, and we are going to start working on the trans. First, I'm going to clean up, then we're going to start working on the trans. Oh, and by the way, that fuel pressure sending unit was like $20 on Amazon. I was looking at a pair of vintage Nikes that I had in high school, okay? And that was a while ago. And, you know, I'm like, damn, those drones were fresh. I want to get another pair. They were a pair of Air Sonic flights. So if y'all see a pair floating around, let me know. But I was like, why can't I find them? And, like, it dawned on me. It's like, because you're old, bro. I'm like, wow. And, like, the same thing is going on here. It's like, why is this VSS so hard to get out of this transmission? Like, this is the crustiest VSS I've ever removed from a trans. Yeah, it came out. But, like, to get it out, like, you see all this crap on there? Like, I had to tap here, then tap here, then tap here, then tap here to kind of, like, rotate it, and it still wouldn't come out. I had this screwdriver in there, and I was just kind of, like, wedging it and, like, kind of, like, tapping it to try not and break it, but to get it out. It was not coming. Like, that's how you know that you're old, because everything you work on is crusty. Look at this. I have never seen a VSS that crusty. That's how you know this trans was probably never opened. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. What is that? What is that? What is that? This is a bearing. That's a bearing. You know how I can tell this is the cage of a bearing? See how it's like got reliefs like that? The balls normally go in here. So that means a ball bearing somewhere in this transmission exploded. Which is weird. Because I drove it up and down the driveway and it felt fine. Okay, but this is why we take these things apart before we put them in the race car. Including the engine, which I regretted taking apart. But after looking at this transmission, maybe I'm glad I took it apart. Okay. So, we're going to go through the synchros and the gears. I'm just going to spin this by hand. Let me get some gloves. It's definitely rotating. Definitely some noise in there that I don't normally hear in these transmissions. But let's get started looking at it. Okay, so right now we are looking at first gear. First gear dogs and synchros look okay. All right, so this is second gear. This is first gear. This is the reverse mechanism. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put it back into first gear if I can. I'm gonna try to show you guys what first gear looks like. So, if we lift this up, what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see nice sharp teeth on this bronze piece and nice sharp teeth on this gray piece. The gray piece is a part of the gear. The bronze piece is a synchronizer. This hub slides down like so, if everything were working correctly, and it grabs the gear and it aligns the gear with the synchronizer and the hub. Okay, so now we're in first gear. All right, so we have removed the shift selector. And what I usually do after I do that is I put the bolts back in. And that basically makes it so I don't lose them. But doing this, what this is going to allow me to do is more easily slide the gears where I need them to be to inspect. So if we spin, I mean, I'm going to try to zoom in as best I can, but okay. Now, if we spin, we can basically see how good or bad that synchronizer and gear set is. So here's a light. And you can see that the bronze piece has what looks like relatively sharp dogs on it. They're called dogs, the teeth. And the gray piece is a little bit rounded off, but it's not bad. Now this is the hub, and this is the selector. If the hub is overly scored, like really badly scored, you need to replace it. This one has some score marks on it, but it's not terrible. Now I can already tell there's something wrong with it with the way that the main shaft is wiggling when I'm turning this, but we're gonna keep going and keep inspecting. Okay, now luckily we have a little bit better view because we are no longer awkwardly positioned. We're just awkward in life. So So now we are sliding this selector up so that we can see our third gear. So this here is third gear. So what we're looking for is damage, again, to the bronze teeth and damage to the gear itself. When I'm looking at it, you know, I have run worse. You know, and people don't believe me. They're like, you know, you can't run that. It's bad. It's going to fall apart, blah, blah. And then I run it, and they're like, how'd you run that? And I'm like, well, because it's not that bad. You think it's bad, but it's not that bad. I wouldn't do that for a customer car, like if I was ever working on someone's car, which I really don't do anymore. But, you know, for my car, it'll work. So, yeah, this one looks okay. Dogs aren't too bad. Now we're going to look at the hub. Hub looks okay. It doesn't look too scored up. Let's see. Hub's okay. It looks like it was well lubricated. I don't know how the heck the differential bearing exploded. And we slide it down. This is fourth gear, okay? So fourth gear, now we're going to look at the dogs. Again, see how it's moving like that? That doesn't give me a warm and fuzzy feeling. And I think I can actually see balls missing out of it. It might be the main shaft that's bad. The main shaft and the diff, we'll see. But yeah, the gears themselves look okay. Thank God, I think. I might replace the synchros just for the heck of it, but they look okay. I've seen worse and I've run worse. The trans in my car currently looks like that, probably. Now we're going to look at, so this is fifth gear. Okay. So we're going to check out the synchros up here. See how everything looks. Put this in neutral. Put this in neutral down here. And it's not turning. Okay. So looks like it's binding up. But yeah, so we're currently spinning it. It looks like it's in a different gear. All right. All right, but basically we're looking again at these dogs. And they look okay. They really don't look too bad. Slide it down. The dogs up here look okay. You know, we slide it, we can turn it around. It looks good. The hub looks good. The selector's moving around freely. It is just okay. So now we are looking at. All right, I don't see any significant damage. Peek under here. I'm not seeing anything crazy. It doesn't look too bad. So we're going to see where this bearing play is coming from, which bearing is damaged. But thankfully, it seems like the dogs on the synchros and the gears are okay. All right. It was actually kind of hard to it was kind of hard to get the main and the counter shaft out. It was like fused on the main shaft to the inner diameter of this input shaft bearing, or what's left of it. It really looks like this might have been an OEM transmission unopened, because the stack for the shims was exactly as it should be. This bearing literally disintegrated. That's, you know, I mean, it's still spinning, so that would make sense why you could drive it around the driveway. And, you know, assuming the previous owner didn't really beat on it too much, that might make sense why the gears don't look too bad. The reason the diff was wobbling is because it's just a conical bearing diff, and I've actually never had one of those, so I'm going to have to convert this case to a radial bearing diff so I can run my CAS differential, or I might just take one of those LS transmission cases and put the GSR gear stack or the B16 gear stack from Northeast Philly into that. This is why we take things apart, and this is why we inspect, so we can see what's broken, because things break, especially with old cars, because remember, I'm old. Anyway, I am going to stop for the night. It is 10:16 on a weeknight, and look at all this backsplash. So, like, this is all oven cleaner used to, like, scrape off the crap here. Oh, yeah, and by the way, so I have my box of goodies that I'm going to send to Dylan, but I cleaned the case as best I could with oven cleaner and brake clean and a brush. I would be here for like 2 hours if I try to do it well. It'll clean off when oil spills on it. It's all good. But yeah, it needs a rebuild kit for sure. Then I got to research how to change that conical bearing diff out because I've actually never had one, like I said before. But other than that, I mean, hey, not too bad, right? I mean, it's just a completely disintegrated main shaft bearing, but I'm glad that I didn't slap that in and just run it. I really am very happy because that could have actually resulted in much worse things, you know. Thank you. Thank you, God. All right. So anyway, I'm out. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.